All of my fine feathered friends. I hope everybody's having a blessed evening this evening. I am. I think. Nobody's told me any different yet. How about those Texas Rangers? What a freaking series. Hell, what a postseason. 8 straight road wins. Hadn't been done since the 96 Yankees, I believe they said. Well, we're pulling for them. Well, you surely are. And good luck to them. Let's see here. Got a bunch to get through. Gonna try to go, or gonna have to go through this kind of fast this evening because there is a lot. Do have to give all the praise and glory though to our God in heaven, because just last week our weather lady, our meteorologist, I'll say, told us we were like 10 and a quarter, not quite 10 and a half inches below our average rainfall for the year. And then, lo and behold, over the last 24 to 36 hours, I got 7 and a quarter inches of rain right here on my place. So there we are. We're down 3 inches now from our yearly average, and they're talking about we got another 5 or 6 inches coming in over the next 2 or 3 days, right along with this big cold front. But anyway, all the glory goes to God. He's the one opened the windows in heaven and sent the rain down. Thank you, Lord. All right, here we go. Well, let's go ahead and start with Ukraine and the Ukrainian greatest ever spring, summer, fall, winter, next summer greatest counteroffensive. 0 gains. 0. Hadn't gained anything. A couple of kilometers here, a couple of 100 meters there, and that's it. That's all, folks. I don't give a damn what CNN, MSNBC, any of the rest of them, the Institute of the Study of War, any of them. I don't care what they say. They hadn't gained anything, hadn't gone any place. What they have done is waste between 60 and 90,000 Ukrainian soldiers dead, killed since June the 4th when they launched their greatest ever counteroffensive. NATO had set them up with, or equipped them with tanks, infantry fighting vehicles, other armored vehicles, trucks, artillery systems, all the stuff you need to fight a war. For, I believe it was 9 brigades. 9 combined armed brigades. Ukrainian brigade is somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000, usually. They burned through them in the first couple of months. They had to input their strategic reserves. That's where we get the 60 to 90,000 dead. Hundreds of Ukrainian and Western tanks, armored vehicles, artillery systems, anti-aircraft systems, destroyed. right there at Robotna. They're in the Zaporozhye region. Uh, one little village with a pre-war population of less than 300 people, somewhere around 27 buildings, 27 buildings. Ukraine has fought since June to capture that village. They did capture it. They sure did. They got all the way through it. Of course, they couldn't leave any troops there, you know, other than the spare fire team or squad, because there wasn't any buildings left. There wasn't any place for them to go. They had to run in there and do their little operations against the Russians and then fall back. They never captured the high ground to the west of Robotna, where the Russians were dug in, entrenched, and concrete freaking trenches and all that. They never did get it. The Russians had fire control over the village the whole time. It was bad, real bad. Now over by Avdiivka, I've heard some bloggers and some commentators and others say that the battle there at Avdiivka is pretty much going to determine the war. Well, I kind of disagree. I don't believe that's going to determine the war. I believe the war has been determined. I believe that as far as the Ukrainians go, it's over with. They don't have anything left. There's nothing left. Remember 2 or 3 weeks ago, they were still talking about full mobilization. They're going to field another 500,000 troops. NATO is going to equip them. Blah, 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 blah. Well, you don't hear that anymore. They're not talking about that. And I'll tell you why. There's nobody left. There is nobody left. This war against Russia has cost the Ukrainians an entire age group of the population. Everybody between 16 and 40, 16 and 50, that didn't escape from Ukraine is killed, seriously wounded, or maimed, or missing. Estimates for war casualties right now are the Ukrainians somewhere between 400,000 and 500,000. 400,000 and 500,000 dead Ukrainian soldiers. Probably that amount wounded, maimed for life. What about the Russians? They say the Russians nearly beat. No, they weren't. Russians don't have 75,000 dead. They don't. There've been around 125, 130,000 Russians wounded, but the vast majority of those wounded soldiers have been able to return to duty. Not the Ukrainians. The Ukrainian soldiers, if they get to be evacuated, aren't going to receive near the level of medical care that the Russian soldiers are. You know, Putin made a good point the other evening. A reporter asked him about the ATACMS missile that Biden snuck into Ukraine. after telling us for a year and a half that he wouldn't send them. It said if Ukraine was winning, we were losing so bad, why did they need the ATACMS missile? You know, yeah, there was one strike on a Russian airfield down south of Tarmac, around Melitopol, I think. CNN and everybody jumping up and down. Oh my God, they killed or destroyed 8 Russian helicopters. Well, come to find out, they destroyed 2 Russian helicopters, damaged another 5, and those will be back up, you know, eventually. Didn't get the crews, didn't get the ground crews, didn't get the infrastructure, and they fired, I believe it was 8 ATACMS missiles. The very first time the Russians saw them or had to go against them in combat, they shot down 7 of them. Only one of them got to the air base. So there's another game changer that didn't change the game. The Russians, however, they're advancing along the several different places along the contact line. You guys got to keep in mind that line of contact, that is a battlefront of nearly 1,200 kilometers. You know, it's over 900 miles. That's almost a total width of Texas. It's a big battlefield. Big battlefield. Speaking of aircraft being destroyed, the Russian Ministry of Defense said day before yesterday, or yesterday morning, I guess, that over the previous 5 days, the Russians had shot down 24 Ukrainian MiG fighters. 24 of them. The Russian Air Force is operating with total impunity over the battle area. They're just doing what they want. The town of Avdiivka that I've mentioned previously, it's about to fall. I've heard some commentators talking about it's going to be another battle like Bakhmut or something, or like Mariupol. No, it's not. Those soldiers are all dead. Those soldiers have all been killed. There's no strategic reserve. There's no soldiers back behind the soldiers on the front line right now. There's nothing. Ukraine don't have any left. There's nobody left. Nothing left. But anyway, October 7th, the October 7th Hamas attacks into Israel. That was a terrible, terrible freaking thing. Terrible thing. Mossad and other intelligence agencies around the world sure enough dropped the ball on that one. Of course, it's not surprising. It's really not. You know, the CIA never gets any of those kind of attacks right either. Of course, they're too busy doing other things, you know, trying to overthrow governments and countries that pissed us off. They do that all the time. And Mossad, on the other hand, I'm really surprised that they dropped the ball like that. Now, I'm no kind of Hamas supporter or anything like that. Don't take this wrong, but I listened to another commentator tonight, and he said exactly what I had thought. I'm talking about Scott Ritter, the former Marine and former UN weapons inspector, said the exact same thing. Hamas carried off a textbook, picture-perfect attack on the state of Israel. Caught them with their pants around their ankles. 1,500, between 1,500 and 2,000 fighters broke through the fence, attacked 27 different locations there in southern Israel, killed 3,000 Israelis, carried off another 220 some odd. It couldn't have been any better for Hamas. I mean, that was a straight up win. Netanyahu and IDF was embarrassed. They got embarrassed. They got wore out. Now, as far as the rest of the crap going on in Gaza, you know, I don't have any sympathy for them. I really don't. Hamas took control in 2006, you know, after Yasser Arafat died and the PLO kind of faded off into the sunset. And the Palestinians there in Gaza let Hamas run things. Let them set up their rocket launchers and all that kind of stuff, mortar tubes and all that in between houses, in schools, in hospitals. And then they act surprised when the Israelis drop bombs on them. I don't have any sympathy for them. I really don't. I'm sorry. That's all. Well, I'm not even going to go there. You know, the United States, Biden, our illustrious commander-in-chief, has the Navy on the scene. Sent the USS Ford to the Eastern Med. Well, my God, it was sitting in Greece anyway. It was already there, showing the flag kind of thing. Eisenhower, speeding to the Eastern Med. And no, they're not going to the Eastern Med, they're going to go to the Red Sea. Maybe the Persian Gulf, but, you know, we'll see when they get there. They're not going to chop the 6th Fleet. They're going to go to the 5th Fleet. We do know that. Of course, you listen to CNN or even Fox News or White House spokespeople, even John Kirby, you'd think the Eisenhower was parked right next to the Ford. Well, I looked a while ago, or this evening, the Eisenhower was just barely halfway across the Atlantic Ocean. They hadn't even made it to the Azores yet. You know, they're not even closing on the Straits of Gibraltar. So, you know, it's another week or 10 days of sailing before they can get there. I don't think Netanyahu has that long to wait. I really don't. You know, Secretary of Defense Austin, Secretary of State Blinken, Biden himself, the senators, Republican representatives, everybody loaded up on airplanes and flown to the Middle East. Well, Austin, he met with his counterpart in the IDF. He turned around and flew back to the Pentagon. He wasn't stupid enough to go anywhere else, and he is pretty stupid. Blinken, he flew over to Cairo after landing in Tel Aviv, flew to Cairo. President Sisi of Egypt proceeded to lecture him for almost between 2.5 and 3 hours on the fact that Syria, Lebanon, Egypt, the Palestinians, none of them give a shit what we have to say and don't really care about our carriers. Blinken left from there, flew to Amman, Jordan. He was supposed to meet with King Abdullah. Abdullah blew that meeting off. The Jordanian foreign minister met with him for about 10 or 15 minutes, and Blinken left. Flew to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, where he was supposed to meet with MBS, Mohammed bin Salman. Left him waiting there all night, the whole night. Left him waiting there. The U.S. Secretary of State, Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, left him sitting there all night long waiting. Then never did meet with him. The Saudi foreign minister came out and met with him for a few minutes and pretty much kicked him out. So he flew back to Tel Aviv, or Jerusalem rather, and trying to make himself look useful. He's sitting in on war cabinet meetings with Netanyahu and his government. Of course, Biden had to have the Air Force fire up the big blue bird and head east and landed in Tel Aviv. And of course, he got there and looked around for his motorcade. Of course, it wasn't there. He was going to get on the helicopter. You know, he totally screwed the pooch on that. Nobody knows what Biden and Netanyahu discussed. He was supposed to meet with King Abdullah in Amman. Abdullah told him, "Now we canceled. We don't even want to talk to you." Sisi said the same thing. As did MBS in Saudi Arabia. Nobody wants to talk to him. Nobody wants to talk to any of them. They're liars. They're liars. They're backstabbers. They're full of shit. Nobody wants to deal with them. One of our longest NATO allies is actually turned. I don't know how they didn't see it coming. Is actually turning against us. Talking about Turkey. And everybody, oh my God, a NATO member going against NATO. And Erdogan had to remind them, hey, look, I'm Muslim. I see the Israeli conflict through the lens of a Muslim. There we are. It's a freaking mess. Just a freaking mess. But Biden and Blinken, they got embarrassed. They got embarrassed. They got schooled. They got spanked. However you want to say it. They got their ass kicked. Nobody wants to deal with them. Nobody wants to talk to them. If it wasn't so goddamn tragic, it'd be funny. But anyway, then we got the all of the well, I'll just say it like this: the corruption in the Department of Justice, our court system, is on full display. The curtains are drawn back, and the corruption in those organizations are on full display for the world. Just watch what they're doing to Trump. It's a freaking shit show. Then yesterday, I guess, Senator Grassley uh, pulled out a letter uh, where the now it's known that the FBI has 40, that's 4 and a 0, 40 different informants since 2010 with evidence against Joe, James, and Hunter Biden and their criminal activities, their money for influence or pay to play or however you want to say it, their corruption. And they've been sitting on it. Some of that shit they've been sitting on for 13 or 14 years. Um, it's it's beyond description. It's an embarrassment. It really is. Now I guess the other big thing last night, yesterday, today, um, the shooting up here in Maine. Um, I really didn't follow very much of it yesterday, even last night. This morning, I looked at it a little bit. Then this evening, I saw that Fox and Fox Business was carrying a press conference, a briefing from local officials, is what the headline said. Well, the mayor, I don't know where this squirrel came from. He got up there and he said something, blah, 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 and introduced the senior senator from Maine, and I wish to God I could remember her name, because she's nutty as a fruit bat. She got up there and talked for a minute and then introduced the junior congressman from that district, the 2nd Congressional District there in Lewiston. This guy got up there. The very first freaking thing he said is he's going to introduce a bill banning assault weapons. Very first thing he said. And I listened through that crap for, I don't know, 10 or 12 minutes. Not one single, after this little congressman, the next guy up was the CEO of the corporation that owns the hospital there in Lewiston. He got up there and talked a little bit about, how great his doctors were and all that. But not one police officer, not one policeman, not one FBI, ATF agent, not one marshal, not one sheriff, deputy, nobody from any law enforcement got up there. So I'm almost on the verge of calling bullshit on that whole thing. And keep in mind, when things like that happen, distraction is what they are masters of. I haven't seen any videos of anybody being hauled off in ambulances or body bags or anything like that. I hadn't seen any of that. No video of this guy actually shooting. And they can't find him. Lewiston, Maine is not a big town, people. It's really not. It's not. 18,000 people there. Sherman, Texas is bigger than Lewiston. And they can't find this squirrel. And just this evening, law enforcement went out to his house. Okay. Okie dokie. Keep on blowing smoke. Like I said, I'm not doing it yet because I don't know. But I'm real close to calling bullshit on that situation. That means they're hiding something. Something's happening somewhere else. All right? That's usually what all that means. Anyway, that's where we are. Everybody keeps talking about we're close to World War III. I got news for you, folks. We've been involved in World War III for the last 7 or 8 years. We really have. It's it just hadn't gone hot all the way yet. It's about to get that way. It really is. I've got a pretty good idea of what Israel's waiting on before they launch their offensive operations. We have a carrier strike group already in and around the Persian Gulf, under Fifth Fleet. I'm sure they're waiting on Eisenhower to get over there and see. They're doing workups going across. They just now deployed. They've been on the beach for 6 or 8 months, so they're working up on their way across. But I believe that they're going to want to attack Iran. That's what I'm thinking. And they need 2 carrier groups at least in there to survive. The Iranians will kill one of them. If there's only one, they'll kill it. What, Tony? What? One of our carriers, Iranians? What? Yeah, they'll kill it. It's not that hard. One hypersonic missile hit, and it's done. It's finished. 4 or 5 cruise missile hits, and it's finished. Ram it with the submarine, and it's finished. And you don't have to sink a carrier for it to be a scratch. All you have to do is damage the radar systems or the flight deck, arresting cables, aircraft elevators, anything like that. And it's useless. All it is a floating city then. I mean, that's how it is. Got the Chinese Navy en route to the Middle East. I don't know if that was a pre-planned deployment or what. I don't know where those where that particular group is at currently. You know, Chinese don't share that information, but they've got a new destroyer, several of them. It's called the Type 05